this week's Art Like Minisode, tiny spinoff of Art Like Everything Else, the podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about a Chinese drama that I watched really recently. It's called Light in Winter, and it's a very beautiful short drama. It stars two very cool actors, Ding Ling Shu and Zhang Xi, and so the drama follows these two characters who sort of get have a spur of the moment sort of engagement um, because one of the guys, he's really depressed, but his grandmother kind of always wanted him to get married. And so she kind of helps him to fulfill that wish for his grandmother. And it's a really beautiful romantic drama in general, but it's really cool in the way you get to see him and see the when he sort of marries, help him to redefine what his life means. And so in this movie, well, in the short drama. I say movie because I watched it all at once and it's about the length of a movie. But we are introduced to our the main male lead, who experienced an accident when he was younger and it left him disabled and him have to sort of reacclimate to living his life and finding meaning in living his life. Because given the world we sort of live in, which is more or less reflected in this short as well, this world isn't a world that encourages or considers disabled people. And so when he was disabled and he had to use a wheelchair, he lost a lot of people and he sort of hurt himself trying to be who he was prior to his accident and prior to his disability, and him not being able to reach those metrics of his past self that he valued and he felt like was the real him. He hurt himself, and that kind of got him into a major depression, and he didn't want to keep going. And so it's really cool to see the female lead sort of come in and encourage him and sort of show that hi- him being disabled isn't the end all be all. Like, it's not the end of the world for him to be disabled. And so she was able to help him to redefine and refine joy in his life. And so, why do I want to talk about this particular short? Last week, I talked about starting over and how a lot of people are afraid to start over, and there's sort of this like idea that we are, or we have all of this time in the world, or that like we have to start over, or us starting over has to look a very specific way. And that's actually not the case. What I wanted to sort of add to last week's conversation in regards to this, sometimes we can acknowledge that we want to start over, but getting those first steps off of our own volition and like doing that jump off point on goals with only ourselves in mind, sometimes that can be really, really hard. And so this week, I kind of wanted to sort of talk about how it is okay to create goals with other people in mind if it can get you on the road to being and doing and pursuing the life it is that you want to live again. So in this short, we saw our male lead who was severely depressed decide to he sort of found himself again through his partnership with the female lead. So he was inspired to live again and to find things to be happy about. And of course, after after they've gotten together, they've been in love and all of that happened, and we see him sort of what a lot of his family were saying, like returning to his old self. He would not have gotten there if he didn't set a goal or at least have the intention of doing something if it meant making his partner happy. And sometimes us wanting to pursue things, even if it's for our own betterment, sometimes it's hard to do that only with ourselves in mind. And so it's easier to set the goal in mind of like, okay, I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to get myself to do this thing, so I'm going to tell myself that I'm doing this thing for someone else, and that will encourage me to actually pursue what it is that I'm trying to pursue. I'll give an example of myself. So I have always wanted to be stronger, but I always sort of did not have the motivation to work out nearly as much, at least when I first started trying to get back into working out and being consistent. And what finally sort of pushed me over the edge into changing my lifestyle so that I can actually finally start working on being stronger. The initial sort of like push for me was when I couldn't lift my nephew. It hurt me that he was sad that I couldn't pick him up. And so in my head, I was just like, you know what? We can't have you being upset that I can't pick you up. I have to get stronger. And that was me on my journey to getting stronger, feeling like I have control of my body and I'm not like deteriorating essentially. And so sometimes you wanting to start over isn't as easy because it is easy to talk yourself out of doing something if you feel like you're the only one who's going to suffer those consequences. And so by me like considering like, oh, if I don't get stronger, I won't be able to pick up my nephew, or it'll always be a struggle for me to pick up my nephew, and I can't have that. So it forced me to actually start working out. Our male lead, him being considered helpful to his partner, is what jump started him into looking and trying to view his life in a different way, to pursue and change his life, honestly, for the better. And that's really all there is to it. You can start over, and it can be a goal that's all on your own that you set for yourself and you pursue. And sometimes, if you want to start over and trying to find that sort of inner inner drive is difficult, it's okay for that inner drive to be at the sort of just part of something else. So yeah, that's all I have for this week's mini-sode. If you haven't watched last week's episode, I highly encourage it. So sure to tune into next week's episode because it's also going to be a pretty cool conversation. That's all I have for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.